party, people. We're here back to back. Tyler's got his volume turned all the way up. We're starting this giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford Off-Right. Tyler, what's up?
Yeah, hit the wrong button, but that's kind of par for the course for me. Back-to-back games, we're lagging a little. You know when teams play on the second half of back-to-back, they always have a worse record than in other games? That's kind of us here. We're going to just have a super sloppy show and just grind through it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. The Oilers might have tired legs. We have tired minds. That's the way it goes. 5 straight wins in a row under Jay Woodcroft. We're chilling. We're happy. We love to report positive, happy news, obviously, on this pregame show. And Tyler, I feel like we said yesterday, in the span of a week, things have just really changed for the Edmonton Oilers in a big 4-2 win in Winnipeg.
Yeah, a big 4-2 win in a game in which they were definitely the better team for about 50 minutes of that hockey game. Coming up, they're up 3-rip. They have that power play, and you're sitting there going, this might be one of their most complete efforts of the entire season. They had put up 24 shots at 5-on-5 through the first 2 periods of that hockey game. They had a comfortable lead, and then things got a little hairy at the end there. A bad power play, and that's something we'll get into as well. But you come away with the win. I give them a solid kind of B+, A- kind of grade for that game. I thought they played really, really well.
And going off of that, let's talk about this Jay Woodcroft magic a little, because I loved what he said at the end of the game, saying that obviously the Jets got some momentum towards the end, but the Oilers didn't flinch, and they remained calm. The guys on the ice and the guys on the bench had the right mentality. And finally, right now, and I know that we need a larger sample size, we talk about this every pregame show, but right now, in this moment, the Oilers are finding ways to win games. And this isn't something we've seen in the last couple of months. And like Woodcroft said, in tough buildings, against tough teams, the Oilers found a way to crack down and get the job done. You got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I got a DM from Scott McDonald who asked if this recent success by the Oilers at 5-on-5 when the power play is struggling could lead to longer term success for them. And I actually think that's a great point. You look, since Jay Woodcroft has taken over, I think they're outscoring their opposition 15 or 16-3 at 5-on-5. Their power play has been hurting them. And you look back to the start of the year, it was the reverse. They were subpar. They were, bottom 10 in the league in pretty much every important 5-on-5 category.
Yep.
Just their power play was running at 40-50%, and they were finding ways to win games that way. And now you look at it, and it's the reverse. They've only allowed one goal at 5-on-5 in their last 2 games here. It's really, really good. And eventually the power play, it's too talented, it's too strong to not wake up and go on a run where it goes at 45% for 6-7 games. We know they're capable of doing that. And when that happens, maybe it comes at a point where you need it to pick up the slack because your 5-on-5's dropped off a bit. Those ebbs and flows of the season, like I talked about yesterday, if you can keep proving you're strong at 5-on-5, it's absolutely a great sign.
I love it. We got... where's this comment? Tori in the Facebook chat saying, let's go. Yes, guys, bring all the good energy to this pregame show. Sound off in the comments. And, Joe makes a good point saying that right now Connor McDavid's leading by example. 3-point night for our captain. 1 goal, 2 assists, 71 points on the season so far. And Rick mentioned on ON Radio the other day that this is a point in time where Connor McDavid gets going in the season. We've all seen it before. But how dangerous can a Connor McDavid be when he has a great supporting cast around him and a team that is playing as a unit? This could be a different level for a Connor McDavid if he has that support around him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his numbers again. I'll just go back to 5-on-5 numbers in that game. He only played 16-27 at 5-on-5. Again, goes back to the new approach from Jay Woodcroft. He's not overplaying anyone. But when McDavid was on the ice, the Oilers outshot the Jets 18-4. Then you go back to the last game against Anaheim when McDavid had 3 breakaways, 6 shots on goal in the first period. He's starting to heat up a little bit. We speculated a little bit on Oilers Nation Radio that maybe he was dealing with a bit of a leg injury, a lower body thing for about a month leading into the All-Star break, and there was some speculation about that from ESPN as well. I think he might be getting healthy. I think he's starting to get a little bit rested as well because his minutes are getting cut back, and he's starting to heat up as well. I would not be surprised if we get one of those sort of vintage 7, 8, 9 game runs from McDavid here over the next 2-3 weeks where we just see him go off and put up 20-some points. I think it could be coming.
Well, it's also good to see our captain, who doesn't necessarily say a lot in post-game interviews, say that he felt the Oilers had a really good 2 periods, and he himself felt really good. So, I don't know. I feel like there's some good energy around these Edmonton Oilers right now. And quickly, Niemelainen, who everyone everyone is talking about online. Everyone is loving this guy. He is literally a truck on the ice. He was fined for his cross check, but everyone, when I searched his name at the end of the game on Twitter, and everyone was like, this is finally the guy that we needed on the ice. He likes to punish people, and they love seeing him throw his weight around.
He got fined for that cross check, and he wasn't even given a penalty on the play. Somehow, like, you watch that replay, and somehow Derek Ryan ends up skating into the penalty box, and it's incredibly confusing. I'm not sure how they didn't see the Niemelainen cross-check, but yeah, he got fined the maximum allowed under the CBA, which I think is like $2,100 for him, but I'm sure he'll take it because that kind of play is going to keep him in the lineup. Like, if every once in a while, if you're Niemelainen, you got to pay a couple $1,000s to the NHL emergency fund or whatever it is, that probably means you're going to keep playing if you bring this physical edge, because he definitely gives that blue line, you know, an element they haven't really had. He's sort of like a bit of a younger Adam Larson, even more physical though. Like Larson was mean, right?
Yeah.
He would slash you in the foot, cross-check you in front of the net. He would punish you. He didn't step up and lay big body checks the way Niemelainen does. Like, the Oilers haven't had a guy like this for a really, really long time, and it's very easy to see why this fan base is falling in love with him.
We got a good comment from Joe in the Facebook chat. Got to talk about Darnell Nurse. Huge turnaround in his last 8 games. I 100% agree, and a big goal for Nurse last night.
Yeah, big goal for Nurse last night. The long-range sort of long-range lobbing shot to seal up the game as well. It was good to see him kind of get off the schneid. I thought he had a really good game as well in terms of getting pucks through. He ends the game with 7 shots on goal, 2 hits, 2 blocks, 2 takeaways, and he played 27-42, which I think is the most he's played under Jay Woodcroft as well. Another defenseman I want to give some love to. How about those blocks at the end by Cody Ceci?
I know.
Minute and a half to go, and he just lays down in front of 2 like clear slap shots to help preserve the lead. A great game from Ceci.
As Mike said now, you know, I remember Cody Ceci as a Toronto Maple Leaf, so I enjoy watching him as an Edmonton Oiler now, and he said Cody Ceci's playing some big boy hockey, so it's good to see. And, you know, it's exactly what, you know, Chris has been saying right now in the chat. Lots of players are playing way better under Woodcroft, and that's like another trend that we like to see. And he said, will Kassian improve his play when he returns? I hope that Kassian is inspired by this Evander Kane and even Niemelainen, and that physicality that's being brought to the ice, because Kassian's a guy that can do that for us too. So it'd be great to see Kassian come back, bring that physicality, and bring back that point production that he brought us kind of at the beginning of the season.
Yep. I hope Zach Kassian's out until the first game of the playoffs, because the Oilers could probably use his LTIR space more than they could use anything Zach Kassian brings to the table on the ice. But yeah, you're really hoping that when Kassian comes back, he looks like, you know, 2017 Kassian or, you know, bubble Kassian when he had a couple of good games against Winnipeg, because we haven't seen enough of that. In the meantime, though, like, guys in this lineup are sort of picking up the pace in that regard as well. I thought Warren Fogle had another solid game against Winnipeg Jets. That third line was a little bit quiet, but they still do a lot of things the right way, and I thought they were still, you know, buzzing a little bit there. But again, this talks to sort of the ebbs and flows of different parts of your lineup. That third line had a couple of games where they scored the massive goals. Big reasons why they won. You have a game where the third line's quiet. You have a game where McDavid and Draisaitl are able to put in a little bit more work, combining for 3 assists as well. McDavid scored the goal. Again, just a solid lineup. This is what you're seeing. Games where you're not at your best, you grind them out because you get a depth goal. You find a way to win. Games where your stars are rolling, you find a way to win a close one because the rest of your lineup is slumping a little bit. It's just those things that when everyone's contributing, it's so easy. It's a lot easier to put together these long winning streaks. Whereas at the beginning of the year, if it wasn't McDavid and Draisaitl rolling, if it wasn't the power play rolling, they weren't winning hockey games.
I think one of your greatest skill sets, Tyler, is that you can talk that fast, still sound coherent, and never skip. Like, you say everything perfectly. Honest to God, if I tried to talk that fast, it'd be like, roar, roar, roar. Okay, quickly, before we move on, we got goaltending. I want to talk about it. Mikko Koskinen's first came back since COVID protocols. He was in the zone before COVID protocols. He had a good game against the Jets last night. And maybe the fans, you guys, yesterday on our pregame show, a lot of you made a solid point that when Mike Smith is playing well, that elevates Mikko Koskinen and vice versa. So maybe these, you know, strong individual performances from both Smith and Koskinen are pushing, you know, themselves to be really good and have a solid performance in between the pipes for the Oilers.
Yeah, I mean, making me eat my words a little bit. I wanted him on waivers. I mean, if you gave me the choice, I still probably would. But Mikko Koskinen's play as of late warrants him staying in the NHL. You look right here. We have his last 5 starts up. He's only allowed 12 goals in those 5 starts. The 2 goals he allowed against Winnipeg, I don't blame him on either of those. Like the Kyle Connor shot, I get some people wanted him to save that. But that's a guy who's already almost at 30 goals on the year. Kyle Connor can absolutely rip the puck. And on the shorthanded breakaway, He already stopped a shorthanded breakaway 20 seconds before that, so I don't blame him for giving up the next shorthanded breakaway. If anything, and I'm going to transition away from the Koskinen talk for just a second because we've established he's been very good as of late. Tyson Barrie's got to be better on that power play. Jay Woodcroft talked about it as a bit of a learning moment, but 11 minutes to go, or whatever it was, 10:30 to go. Oilers go on the power play. They're up 3-0. Jack Michaels said it on the broadcast. He said, hey, for the Oilers, even if they don't score, when you're done with this, 8.5 minutes to go, you're up by 3. There's no reason why they shouldn't have absolutely put that game away. And if you're Tyson Barrie, you need to be going out there with the mindset of, if we score the 4th goal, that's awesome. His priority is the defenseman on that power play needs to be no odd man rushes. And forget allowing 1, he allowed 2, and they were both on the backs of him blowing his coverage and not understanding that there was no one behind him, and he jumps out high into the slot. Like, if you want to be an elite power play quarterback, you need to have better awareness than that. Barry's been brutal now for a few weeks, and this was just another of couple of mistakes that you can't be making if you're Tyson Barrie. Woodcroft described it as a learning moment. I don't think a guy you're paying $4.5 million a year to literally only do one thing in your lineup should be having, learning experiences or learning moments at crucial moments of the game, because the Jets should have never gotten back into that hockey game. And 2 bad plays by Tyson Barrie on the power play allowed the Jets to get back in that hockey game. So I wanted to get that off as well.
Today's a new game, right? A new day, new game. Let's move on to the opposition report presented by Yeg Burger. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers taking on a pretty good Minnesota Wild team who are 13-3, third in the Central, but coming off of a tough 6-2 loss to the Panthers the other night. We know that the Oilers played a tough game last night, probably some tired legs, but they have found ways to grind it out, and they have another opportunity to do so tonight. And we know from the mentality Jay Woodcroft has instilled in this team, and you can tell maybe that the mentality that the players have within each other on the bench and on the ice, the boys can get it done today.
Yeah, and the one thing to look at here, this Minnesota team's good. Second best points percentage in the Western Conference. They have legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations, and they're a team that's going to be good enough to go on a run, especially if they load up at the deadline a little bit. 30-13-3, like you said. On the road, they're very good as well, 14-9-2. But as of late, it's been tough sledding for them. They've lost 2 in a row. They're still 7-3 in their last 10, but they've had trouble keeping pucks out of their net. They gave up 6 to Florida. They gave up 6 to Winnipeg. They gave up 4 in a winning effort to the Detroit Red Wings earlier in the week as well. So they're coming off a week that saw them give up 16 goals in 3 games. This is definitely something the Oilers can take advantage of. The other thing in Minnesota's game that's been slipping as of late is their play at 5-on-5. The Oilers actually have a better shots for percentage than the Wild at 5-on-5 on the season as a whole. That's how hard the Wild have been slipping and how well the Oilers have been playing at 5-on-5 as well. Minnesota's also super average with the special teams on top of that. So, like, you look on the surface, year as a whole, this Minnesota team's an absolute wagon, and I have no doubt that they'll jump out of this slump a little bit. But right now, they're playing, you could argue, their worst hockey of the season, and that's maybe something. You got a team that's cold, a team that's hot. Edmonton's back on home ice. They're definitely, I'm confident, it's going to be sky high in this group. This game isn't the scheduled loss that maybe I would have thought it was a week ago.
Which is crazy. How much a week can do for the Edmonton Oilers. All right, let's go to the lines for the Minnesota Wild.
The lines for the Wild, obviously the guy you want to keep an eye on is Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov. 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists in his last 5 games for Kaprizov. He's up to 23 goals on the season. Ryan Hartman is almost at the 20-goal mark. He's going to center that top line. Matt Zuccarello, the vet, is on the right side. The second line is Freddie Gaudreau with Kevin Fiala and Matt Boldy. Matt Boldy, the former first-round pick, he's off to a great start in his career, and in his last 10 games, he's got 5 goals. Joel Eriksson-Ek with Jordan Greenway and Marcus Foligno. That is a tough shutdown third line, and I fully expect them to get a lot of minutes against Connor McDavid and the Oilers top line. Nick Bukestad with Connor Dewar and Brandon Duhaime on the fourth line. The D pairings for the Wild, Goligoski with the local product Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin with the former Oiler Dmitry Kulikov, and John Merrill with the former first-round pick of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Kalen Addison, on the right side. Starting in net for the Wild, it's not going to be the former Oiler, Cam Talbot. Minnie is going with Capo Kakkonen between the pipes in this game. Kakkonen's played 18 games so far this season. He's 11-3-2 with a 2.53 goals against average and a 9.21 save percentage. In his last 5 games, Kakkonen's been pretty good, only allowing 12 goals against.
Tyler, before we get to the Edmonton Oiler lines, we have a comment here from Tori saying, the Oilers need to grind, not avoid the grind, like Tyler.
Yeah, that's fair. I was on vacation for a week. I'll take that one.
He deserves it, guys. Tyler works so hard. All right, let's head to the Edmonton Oilers. Are there any changes that we know of?
I don't know. We didn't hear anything. The only thing we got from head coach Jay Woodcroft earlier today is that Mike Smith is going to get the start between the pipes. Smith on the season is 5-4-1 with a 3.31 goals against average and a 9.04 save percentage. The forward lines for the Oilers, though, I would imagine things are going to stay pretty similar to what they were last game. No reason to touch the top line. McDavid, Hyman, and Yamamoto, when that trio was on the ice for the Oilers last game, they outshot the Wild 12-4. They had a very, very good game. Draisaitl, Kane, and McLeod, I think you could probably keep them together. I wouldn't break up the third line after just one bad game either. I'm not even going to call it a bad game. I'll call it a average game from the third line. No reason to break them up. No reason to go away from the 11-7 approach either. Benson and Perlini, I thought they were both okay in that game. I would get Benson out there with McLeod a little bit more. The two of them, I think, have some natural chemistry, and I think they should try work that in a little bit more. Maybe because it's the second of back-to-backs, you pull out a Tyler Benson, maybe... I don't know, maybe you put Devin Shore in for one of Perlini or Benson, but I personally wouldn't. I think Perlini played fine. He had that chance on the breakaway.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, we talked about him on the pregame show and he's going to do it. But it's okay.
Still 3 goals in his last 6 games. He's on a good run. Like I wouldn't mind keeping Perlini in the game. The D pairings, you're not going to change up anything there because you don't have anyone else to put in the lineup. So everything, I'm expecting it to stay the same. I would keep it the same. The only change to maybe watch is maybe Devin Shore gets into the lineup. But other than that, I think it'll be pretty similar.
Okay, I want to be cool like you, so I decided to bring my mic off the table and chill with it too.
Yeah, I don't know, it's like uncomfortable when I got to lean over too much. Also, this chair is missing a screw, so I'm worried if I don't distribute the weight properly, I'm going to fall down on the show.
Could you imagine? You never hear the end of it.
I never would.
You never would.
No.
That would be screen grabbed and it'd be forever.
But we don't have you need one of those IKEA Allen keys to put the screw back in. I have the screw. It's sitting right off to the side, but we don't have one of the Allen keys, and I always forget one. So if anyone's in the area, please bring us an Allen wrench.
Before we head on to the bet of the game, a lot of comments. Yamo has been really impressive lately. Can't say enough about McLeod. That was from Chris. And even Joe saying McLeod has impressed me, and it's just great to see. Again, we talk about players that aren't McDavid and Draisaitl who are really starting to get that chance and opportunity. And, was it Derek Ryan who spoke to that the other night, that players are finally getting that chance and opportunity to make a difference, and that's what's contributed to the success of this team. So it's really great. Yamo with a good goal. I mean, he's been buzzing. He's been doing his job.
3-game point streak for Kyler Yamamoto, 7 shots on goal in his last 3 games as well. I like what we get from Ryan McLeod. He's a guy he's shown he can move up and down your lineup. He's killing penalties now, can play center, can play the wing. The only thing I'd like to see out of him is he's got to shoot the puck a little bit more. Like, he's got 5 goals in 38 games, which isn't, terrible for a guy who spent a lot of time in the bottom 6, but you can't shoot you can't score if you don't shoot. Yeah, that's what I want to say. And he's only averaging a shot per game so far this year. He needs to shoot the puck more. He gets chances. Like, he flies up the ice. And if I'm Jay Woodcroft, I'm telling that guy to just rip the pill way more than he is right now.
Love it. All right, you got some love from Tori. He says, love you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tori.
Okay, so let's move on. Where are you putting your money today, Tyler?
The Oilers are in a pick'em with the Minnesota Wild. As you can see, they started the day as underdogs, but that line is now shifting. It's -110 on either side. If you like the Oilers in regulation, +130. If you like the Oilers on the puck line, +205 in that one. Leon Draisaitl has been on a pretty good run as of late. He's +125 to go over a shot and a half. Missed the bet of the game because Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had 2 shots, not over 2.5. But tonight, I'm actually going with Connor McDavid's shot prop again. He's been ripping the puck a lot. I mentioned 6 shots on goal in the first period against the Anaheim Ducks, and in this last game against Winnipeg, he put up 6 shots as well. He's had 6 or more shots in 3 of his last 5. All he needs to hit the over is over 3.5. So I like the McDavid shot prop. I've been ice cold as of late, but if you're trying to start a winning streak on the betting front, no one better to put your money behind than Connor McDavid.
Absolutely, especially right now. That's it, guys, for our Giant pregame show. So we'll maybe go over a few comments in the chats. We got Joe saying that the Wild are an extremely well-structured team, a tough opponent in back-to-back games. Agreed. But the one thing where I have now faith, where literally a week ago I'd be like, I don't know. Now I'm like, there's the right mindset on this team, and mindset can go so far, and these guys have been showing that on the ice.
5 in a row, and the other thing for the Oilers, too, is, tonight, tonight's a tough one. Like,
Yeah.
if they lose tonight, I'm not going to sit here and be like,
Yeah, oh my God, it's happening again. Yeah, we're not
the
gonna freak out.
Woodcroft thing's a facade. Like, no, like they're still going to be a good team. But it's a tough week for the Oilers. Like, Mini tonight, one of the best teams in the West. Tampa Bay, you're in Tampa, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And then on the weekend, you get a back-to-back against Florida, Carolina, who are the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference. Like, the next 4 teams you're playing are all really, really good. But if they can get out of this 4-game streak, get a split, win 2 of them, somehow win 2 of them. I'd be very impressed if they go 2-2. The week after, you go Philly, Chicago, Montreal.
Yeah.
You get 3 teams who are, lottery teams at this point as well. So if you can survive this stretch of 4 straight, you're going to put yourself in a great spot to start March on a high note with 3 really, really good matchups as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. You ready for game time?
I am ready for the game. Yeah.
6 p.m.?
It's easy to be optimistic about this team right now, right? Like there's so many things going right with the exception of the power play. And the power play has just been that one constant for the last couple of years that you're so confident it's going to bounce back.
Yeah.
I'm still at the point where every time they get a power play, I'm sitting there going, they have a real shot to score on this thing. They're now 4th in the NHL in power play percentage, which is lower than they've dipped, I think, at any point in the middle of the season during the Dave Tippett era. So they need to get that turned around, obviously. But like I said, I'm confident they can do that. And if there's ever a night where maybe the power play can steal you one, it's in a game where you're going up against like the 20th ranked penalty kill in the league, which they are tonight in the Minnesota Wild.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining into our giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Take a nap, eat some brunch, whatever it is that you do on game day, and 6 o'clock p.m. is game time. We'll see you on Twitter, and then we'll be back for the next game day.
Get some Nation beers in ya.
Yeah, exactly.